I'm Kara Ray, founder of Ambitious Moms Balancing Business and Babies. I'm a mother, a stepmother to 3 beautiful children. I'm a wife and a proud entrepreneur. I'm a mindset coach specifically for mothers who desire to strip the mom guilt and own their ambition in business and family life. The Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast is for the ambitious women and mothers who are ready to rise together and empower one another. Get plugged in each week for unfiltered and uncensored conversations between myself and industry leaders who support you, have unwavering points of view, and empower women to believe in themselves. We will be discussing business, spirituality, energy, strong points of views, manifestation, and what I like to call breaking the stigma topics. Conversations that will no longer be silenced. This is a safe place to reclaim your power of being a woman. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Aislinn Walton, and now Aislinn is a business and success coach for female entrepreneurs who are ready to amplify their impact, elevate their brand, excuse me as I choke on my words, and fully own their purpose of being a global visionary. There we go, it's out. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Kara. Hallelujah. Thank you.
I swear every single time I introduce somebody, I either choke on air or I do something. So my apologies.
It's part of your whole brand.
Well, people will just know me as a person who chokes on air.
We're all human things.
Oh my goodness. So you guys, today we're going to be talking about like our next level version of ourselves, our desires, and how business and pleasure really intertwine so beautifully together. And I've followed you for a while now, and I know that you talk about business and pleasure in such a beautiful way, but also about desires and spirituality and bringing everything together. And so I'm super pumped to have this conversation. But before we get started, I always ask a question about what are you celebrating currently in this season of your life?
Oh my goodness! What a cool beginning. Okay, so today I feel like I'm in a super celebratory mode, so that really helps. I'm celebrating, let's see here. So I'm celebrating a beautiful year. You know, we are nearing the end of December, and this has been like my first official real year in business. And I'm celebrating how beautifully it went. How much I'm celebrating is also tied to how much I've learned, not just what I've accomplished, but what I've really experienced and moved through and gone through and all of that stuff. So that's kind of like big vision celebration. Just like this year freaking rocked. And then today I'm celebrating actually. In the last day, I've been invited to come to 2 different masterminds with women that I really respect. So not like masterminds that I paid to be in, but that I'm like specially invited to. And part of me just feels like, oh my gosh, like this is a blessing that I didn't even know I needed, you know, to like be amongst other women who are at my level, who are doing things that I'm doing, but like sometimes I think in this industry, we feel a little bit alone, you know, like who's safe to talk to? She's not my coach, but she's a friend, but what are the boundaries? So I'm celebrating 2 opportunities in 24 hours to kind of be a part of a group of women that just has really big hopes and dreams and a vision for where they're going in their business. And that's really, really exciting for me right now. So I'm celebrating that.
For sure. Now, all I want to say is, thank you, universe. More, please.
Yeah, thank you. More, please.
That's incredible. Congratulations. That is totally worth celebrating. And I love that you're in just like a celebratory vibe. So like asking that question is just perfect. But that's beautiful. Beautiful. And it's like, I want to talk about, because you had mentioned vision. So I'm like, that was like one of the last things I was going to talk to you about. But I'm like, hey, she mentioned it. Let's just do it now.
Why not?
In regards to being a visionary, what is something that you guide your clients through? Because I know so many people get stuck in like these short-term goals that they get so discouraged when they don't reach them right away, but they get lost at like there's a long-term vision and becoming a visionary of what you ultimately desire at the end. So like, can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's so important.
So important. That's an amazing question. I think, we we don't give ourselves permission to expand and evolve as much as we need to, because your vision is always going to evolve. Like, you might have a grand vision for your entire life that feels in alignment this year, but next year it'll probably be different. Like, give yourself permission for it to change. Don't set yourself up for, like, you know, expecting something to be one way and then it turning out to be different. I think not just entrepreneur world, but like in life, we have these visions, but then the universe delivers us something even better or totally different from what we were projecting it to be. And we're like, oh, I couldn't have even imagined that this would be as, you know, in alignment as it could be right now for me. Like, I know that happened with my relationship and like how we met and what that ended up looking like and who we are now. And that also looked like, you know, I was planning on being like this globally international internationally renowned yoga teacher, like back in 2014. That was kind of my biggest vision. But the universe had different plans, and here we are, and here I am. And I would say for anybody on this path of being a visionary entrepreneur, you know, you're here to not just set a standard for yourself, but for humanity. And that is a huge responsibility, and it can feel very overwhelming. But I've talked about this before with, like, you know, with my clients, it's always about, like, you can't just have a reason that is about your money or about your own life. Like, yeah, have a why that's selfish and for you only, but the why that keeps me going is way bigger than me.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I would have fizzled out probably months ago if it was just about me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the reason that I continue to, like, strive for more is because of this planetary, you know, expansive vision that only visionaries really have. Most of the planet, most of people, most of society, they don't allow themselves to go big with their vision. And that's why I think we've come a long way, you know, but I think we could have gone farther if more people had given themselves permission to be big thinkers and big dreamers beforehand.
Oh, girl, preach it.
I'm preaching.
I agree with you 1,000%, because so many people just never gave themselves permission to say yes or to do the damn thing, and then they fell short or they got discouraged and disappointed. But then there's, like, the people who do it and who invest and just, like, don't stop because of all these other limiting beliefs. Like, we live in a society where we constantly need, like, this reassurance, or what is the word I'm looking for? Like,
validation,
gratification. Like, we're like this I don't know, the society that needs that instant gratification. There we go. And that's not what, like, I firmly believe as an entrepreneur, you do receive instant gratification, but you also receive, like, very long-term and, like, later in life gratification. And so there's a lot of, like, inner work that I believe that has to really be, like, I think you really just need to dive into who you are when you're, like, you know, expanding yourself. I can't even speak now. Like, what am I trying to say? That seems like to be the jive of this conversation. Like, blah, get it out.
Everyone will understand if we don't use words today. So.
Just, if you can keep up with the mumbles, we totally appreciate that.
We will transmute our message through light waves in this podcast.
Well, and in regards to, because you talk about, like, vibrational healing, and so, like, when we're talking about, like, when we're talking about being a visionary, and then, like, you know, this massive healing impact that people can have, let's dive a little bit more into that, because you were talking about how, like, you wish other women or other people in this world would have just believed in themselves a little bit. But, like, the power of the universe, I think people really underestimate that, because I know, like, totally, me was totally that person who was like, this is a bunch of bull, like, I don't believe anything, how can this work? But literally everything has a vibrational frequency, and I really just want to talk about that with you, because I think you're a great person to talk to about it. So, like, what is your opinion on, like, these vibrations and, like, what you attract in business or life, and how the universe just kind of operates?
Oh my, yes. Okay, so vibrational magnetism. Let's see. So starting out with a little story. I feel like I don't really have the story of, like, rags to riches in my business. And originally that was kind of this feeling of, like, I don't have the big story that you need for success. I grew up very, you know, privileged. as a white woman in Colorado, you know, and I feel like that was something that I started to feel like, well, I need more something. And I remember back when I was in like high school, I had a friend call me out. No, it was 8th grade. She was like, Aislinn, you need something bad to happen to you because your life is too good. Friend, right? Like she literally told me this in health class in 8th grade. And she was really suffering. She was a low vibrational woman. And a lot of 8th graders, like it's a very low vibrational time sometimes in life. Yeah. You're going through so much transition, so much, you know, evolution, you know, soul, body, everything. And that was kind of the first moment that I realized I had been just vibrationally aligned with a lot of really high vibrational and kind of like beautiful opportunities in my life. Mm-hmm. And yes, that was because of who I was born as and where I was born in society and, you know, all of kind of the societal conditions that I just was plopped into. Thank you, universe. You know, I'm very blessed. And I also know that a lot of what I was experiencing was because I had chosen that and was because I was vibrationally aligned with like expecting miracles and good things to happen to me. Mm-hmm. Until that point, I didn't notice the contrast until she called me out on it. And I did, with that awareness, I started to attract negative opportunities and experiences in my life. I say negative opportunities because everything is an opportunity, you know? But it definitely, like in that moment through high school, I also started to notice that I was vibrationally aligned with like thinking big and, you know, feeling confident in myself. And I was surrounded by a lot of other women who were not that way. So I would try to convince them, no, you are this, you are this, you are this. I tried to talk to them about it. And I stopped embodying it. So the talking never works. Convincing never works. You can't drag people into spiritual alignment or high vibration. Yeah. You can't drag anybody. You have to embody it, be a representation of that, be an example of that, and let life work with you. And the universe helps you as you go, as long as you don't attach to dragging people along with you who, you know, you're like, you have to understand. That was a really big lesson for me in the vibrational alignment situation, because I recognized that I had the control mechanism to attach to people or things. I had the control mechanism to attach to like comfort and stability and security. And I didn't let myself grow out of experiences that like no longer serve that. So I think I kind of, over time, I recognized I was dimming my light, dimming my vibrational kind of power, yeah, because I wanted to be liked. And I wanted to fit in. And I wanted other women to want to be friends with me. But I ended up over time, like over and over again, you would outgrow those relationships the more that you would become more in alignment with yourself. Yes. And I've been a journaler since 2nd grade.
Fantastic.
2nd grade, I was like, I'm going to go play with Sarah today. We played with her dog and we ate these cookies. But like, I didn't realize that was going to be such a huge thing for my visionary mind, for my vibrational alignment over time, because I didn't know that I was manifesting through my writing and through my vibrations in envisioning my greater like life that I wanted to, whether they were trips or relationships or anything. I feel like my journal was like this vibrational, powerful little, you know, tool that I had that I didn't know of until a lot later.
Yeah. I love that. It's like your own little powerful book.
Like a little secret book. And my name also means dream in Gaelic. It means vision, which is kind of crazy. Like over time, I feel like people recognize that like they just slowly fit themselves better. If that makes sense. Like, you start to like, like you shed all the layers that are like, oh, this was an accident. This was a random occurrence. And you're like, no, everything was on purpose. Everything was exactly meant to happen as it did. And that is so vibrationally significant because it's all about who you're magnetizing, who you're repelling, and then continue to refine that as you grow older. So I don't know, that was kind of a long answer to what you...
That's like, honestly, there's so much that we can talk about within that answer because I think that's really powerful because people seem to forget that they have a choice. Like they get to choose what they allow in, what they put out. And a lot of the times we don't want to take responsibility for our actions sometimes. I think we're also in a society where we like to deflect, and we like to deflect a lot of the things that happen to us or for us, or if we don't believe it's happening for us, because I believe everything that happens, the universe isn't attacking you. Like everything is happening for you, and you might not think that at the time, but there's probably something to learn from it. And like being able to fit in, like I related to you talking about that so much, because prior to me like walking and stepping into like becoming an entrepreneur, I was spending time with a lot of people who didn't actually value who I was at all. And we were just drinking and doing drugs and being really stupid,
Yeah.
might I add. Like I was not fucking smart. And so like I was making mistakes, but I wasn't being accountable. I was wondering why I was constantly miserable, and I was spending time with people who didn't give a shit. And like it was like a really tough time. And then I met my husband, and he's like, why are you spending time with people who don't care about you? He's like, they don't value you. The only time they want to spend time with you is if you're drunk. And I was like,
whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, that's true, but I didn't want to believe it. Like he couldn't, like you were saying before, how like we can't just like drag people with us. It has to be a choice. So I like fought him on that, where I was like, no, these are my people. I love these people. They're great. And he's like, you know what, whatever. You got to figure it out on your own. Like I can tell you what I think, but like if you don't agree with it, like you got to make that choice. And then one day I made the choice when I found out that people I called my friends had called my pregnancy disgusting, and that I was like making some horrible mistakes in my life, and just bashed the shit out of me. And it tore me apart. They told me that like my unborn child was disgusting.
Oh, Kara.
And so like that was like this pivotal moment where I just like realized like I will never allow someone to make me feel that way again. And that was a choice. It was like the universe was like, okay, this is going to happen to you, and you're going to make this decision, and you're going to realize like this is not for you. And now I spend time with incredible women. Might I add, most of the people I spend time with are all virtual, all online, but they are the most badass women I've ever met, and like super empowering. We like talk via Zoom all the time, or message each other and keep each other accountable. And that's the type of women that I want to be around. Like my whole life has changed. I even said to my husband, I was like, you know what? A year ago, if I never invested in my coach, like where would my life be at this moment? Like it just like, where would it be? Because I was on such a different path, like this horrible depression, anxiety path. And now it's like completely different. But the people have a choice. Like you can choose to stay in that, or you can choose to be at like a completely different vibrational frequency. Like the people that I used to spend time with, they don't message me, they don't call me, they don't ask me how I'm doing, they didn't do anything, because I don't serve a part of their life that makes them feel better anymore. And so, and that was tough. Like that was really tough, because I just wanted to fit in. So I really did. Like I just wanted to have my people. And for a while I felt really freaking alone. Like I was like, I'm doing this by myself, I guess. Like what the hell? When people said to me, they're like, oh, have child and your life will change. My life changed, but in the best freaking way. Like people are like, oh, it'll change for the worst. No. My child is a freaking blessing. And like she was an oopsie, but like that's okay. And I love the shit out of her anyways. And she has completely like changed my life. And so like I just wish people would just like understand that they can take this power back, and by one simple decision that is like this massive powerful decision, their life can just be on like a completely different trajectory. Like I'm super passionate about this, because like
yeah, well, like vibrationally, a lot of people don't understand the vibrational lingo, but decision, commitment, and choice, everyone understands that. And when you make a decision or choice to disengage from a reality or a group of people that aren't serving your highest good and are keeping you limited, then you're not only breaking yourself free from that particular scenario, you're also creating a new paradigm for you that makes you aligned with all the women that you're talking about right now. The women that you feel so connected to and aligned with, that serve you, fulfill you, they drive you forward. It's all like it's a lifting each other up feeling, as opposed to like, let's all keep each other down here because we all like to suffer together, and substances and all of that. Like I'm a fan of social drinking occasionally, but I don't ever have like wine in my fridge or anything, because I definitely felt in my past that was like it kept me down. You know, it kept me anchored down when there were so many opportunities. The universe was like, Aislinn, look, Aislinn this, Aislinn, try this, you know, and like, I believe everything, just like you, is divine and synchronistic and meant for your greatest good. But so much liberation and freedom in that decision to disengage, to disconnect. And I love that you brought up the phase in between, the limbo phase.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm alone now, great, like now what?
Literally, I was like, okay, well, okay, I guess I have like Netflix and, you know, coffee. Like, that was literally why I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the listeners will feel very connected to that kind of feeling, because they're the ones who just made the shift into being a personally development oriented person, you know, or you know, they're the ones who just said goodbye to a relationship or just made a boundary. And you don't just leap right into the next thing. You have to integrate, you know, and you have to kind of go through a phase of surrender and also mourning your old life.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels shitty. And a lot of people bypass that or skip that or don't talk about it, you know? And that's a really big thing to, I think, bring to the surface, especially as entrepreneurs and as women and, you know, being people with a platform or a leadership kind of presence. You got to talk about the stuff that you went through that doesn't look all shiny and perfect. Like, you make all of this high vibrational success and, you know, leadership kind of lifestyle is a result of the phases of limbo and shitty, fear and letting go and boundary setting, you know, all those kinds of things.
And like, even though I think it's important, like, people, when you're in like this like limbo phase and this unknown phase, like, I used to push so hard in this whole like trust and surrender. There were before I could never be like alone with my thoughts or doing anything, where now like I work at home and some of the time I'm by myself. And so a lot of the time, so it's like I have a lot of time to think. And I can either allow myself to get lost in like all of these negative thoughts, like even this morning, you know, this is just like, we're human. Like, we don't just come on social media and we're like, ooh, I'm this brand new shiny new toy. Hey. Like, I'm so shiny. My life's perfect. No, I have a lot of moments in my life where I made some serious mistakes and I learned from them and I grew from them. But then I was able to get from like this point in my life to now. And like, I really believe that I wasn't ready for it before, but I was ready for it now. And like, I was going to go with a point here and I totally lost it. See, this is what happens when you just like go on these channels. You're like, what was I thinking? It's like one of those divine things. You're like, I need to say it at that moment. And I didn't. I'm like, why?
I feel like exactly what you're talking about is in one of my programs, I talk about the fear portal and how a lot of people want to go around it. Or, you know, they think that they can just like forget about it and ignore it and just keep going forward. But a big part of this business and a big part of just the soul evolution process is going right on through those fear portals and seeing it as an opportunity, like a portal to transform and not an obstacle. A lot of people see fear as like a big boulder in the way. For me, my crazy vision is like the boulder just gets a little like woo and effervescent and you get to go through it.
I love that. If you guys can see Aislinn right now, she's like swimming through
Other people see a boulder. I see something that you can like stick your hand through and like walk into.
Yeah.
You know? And then I get transformed and woof, all the magic happens and it feels uncomfortable when you're in it. But then you get to the other side and you're like, fuck yeah, I did that. I got through that. And now I can do it again. And I can keep doing this. And the limbo phases and the down phases and the times where you're really invited to surrender and do the inner work. I mean, we all know that this is like always, you don't just ever stop.
No.
But thank you, universe. Like, this is a constant educational, you know, experience.
Oh yes. It's
but
like,
yeah, I feel like, sorry,
go ahead.
I was just saying, like, the whole obstacle versus portal, like, what is it to you? How are you going to move through that? That ends up making it easier on yourself. Not to say it will be easy, but you make it into an opportunity and not an obstacle. And you make it into something that will contribute to your growth and not, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm just dead in the water right now. It's like a cocoon phase. You know, you're doing the inner work to transform maybe people don't know what's going on, but then you come out on the other side and you are a better person for it.
Yes. And like in regards to uncomfortability and boundaries, I think people, they get stuck, like you said, like they feel like fear is like this boulder. I've had to have so many uncomfortable conversations in regards to placing boundaries in my life where people have now said that I'm like this intimidating person, but not, oh yeah, they're like, you're intimidating. I'm like, what do you mean by I'm intimidating? And they say I'm intimidating because I know my boundaries and values and what I'm worth, and that I don't allow somebody else to try to define that to me. And they think that's overwhelming. And I was so, like, I felt so hurt for them, like when I heard that, because I'm like, why? I'm like, why does that feel intimidating to you? To the point that you feel like you can't do that for you? Like, that shouldn't be intimidating. That should be like, hell yeah, you're amazing. This is powerful. I wish more women did the same thing and had these strong boundaries. But to a lot of people, it's freaking intimidating. And people won't walk through or step through those things because they get blocked, or they allow fear to just like block them and turn them away. And it's just like, if somebody pisses me off, you know, I've learned to like my masculine and feminine energies and how those can play together so nicely. And I've really learned how to communicate well with people. And so if someone says something that I don't like, I don't allow that to fester. I say it right away, where I'm like, you know what? I don't appreciate what you just said. This is how it made me feel. And I would respect if you didn't do that again. And then we move forward. And if they do it, sorry, I warned you once. Like, I won't deal with it anymore. And like, I just wish people would place those important boundaries and know what their values are. Cause I think that's one thing too, is people don't actually know what they value. They think they value, let's say X, Y, Z, but they actually value A, B, C. So.
Yeah, that's a big point. I take people through that particular lesson of what are your values? What do you really value in your life, and why? Mm-hmm. And what are examples? Because people can think about, okay, I value family, but do you? You know, oh, I value communication, but do you? Like, are you in integrity with your values? Okay, so this is kind of like a bigger topic, but when typically women will sacrifice, women specifically, will sacrifice their values to be comfortable and loved. Mm-hmm. And it's not even actual comfort or actual love. It's the illusion of them. Right? Oh, yes. Because, like, let's say, you know, this happens very often in the coaching world where someone, let's say she's just starting, she doesn't quite understand that she needs to charge what she needs to charge. And it needs to be like, let's say she wants to charge $5,000 for her 3 months. But then she'll like get on a call with people who she knows won't pay $5,000, but she just wants to be on the phone and wants to feel the validation from other people. She's sacrificing, let's say her value is freedom. She's mm-hmm. sacrificing her time freedom and her money freedom to feel appreciated, when it's actually not working in her favor in that kind of way. And it's not contributing to her abundance vibration or her authority in the field, right? Because she's sacrificing, she's out of integrity with her values. This happens all over the place. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're wrong or they should be ashamed of this, because this is a process. They kind of have to go through the awareness of, I'm out of integrity with my values, so that I can get in check and check in with this, write it down, do the journal work, talk with a coach, and then move through it so that you continue to establish that value and that boundary again and again and again. Because it's one thing to say, I'm in alignment with my values, but then it's so easy to slip out of that, because a woman who is in alignment with her values and is very aware of her boundaries is intimidating to people who don't feel in alignment with their values, or who don't respect their own boundaries or her boundaries. So that's very interesting that people are calling you intimidating, because that's exactly where you really know, will someone respect you or will they not? You know, what do their actions say?
Well, and I've been called intimidating ever since I was young. Like, ever since I was little, like I would say probably grade like 4, people started calling me intimidating. And my mom even said, like, I was talking with her last week. She said, you were such a unique child. She was like, you weren't the child who sat there and like played with Barbies. Like, you wanted to look at quotes and you wanted to talk about life. And like, you wanted to talk about all this spiritual stuff. And like, that is what interests you. And that's what you wanted to do. And she was like, so I didn't have a daughter who just wanted to sit around and play with Barbies. Like, I had this child who had a corkboard filled of quotes because she was cute. And I was just like, I did that? Like, I didn't even remember that, but I always have had quotes everywhere around me. Like even in mine and my husband's room, I literally have like printed them off in beautiful paper. They're in frames. They're on our wall in this like
I love that.
I've always been that way because like I don't know why, but like in regards to like, so people have always called me intimidating, even men, like men call me intimidating and they say like, you're intimidating. Why? Is it because I love myself and I know what I value? Like, I'm not going to settle for less. And my husband, like when I met him, he's like, you scared the shit out of me. I was like, why? He's like, you're just a little intimidating. Like you very specifically like knew who you were, knew what you wanted, knew where you were going in life. And like, you weren't going to allow anybody to stop you. And I was like, but I want every woman to feel that way. I want every woman to take that power back. Like, I couldn't tell you how many times people have tried to like tear me away from the things that I want, or how many times people have thought being an entrepreneur is like stupid and bogus. And how are you going to make money? What are you going to do? How are you going to teach people? Like all about this. And it was like soul crushing at the beginning, but now I'm like, you don't have to get it. Like the people who are supposed to be attracted to this will 100% understand what this is for. And like in regards to hiring a coach, when I first hired my coach, I was in a network marketing company and I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I was like, nah, I'm like, this is what I want to do for my life. Like, let's figure this out. And she just looked at me like, no. She's like, do you not believe in yourself? Like, do you hear yourself when you speak and how powerful you are? And like, she's like, you don't just belong behind somebody else's like shoes. She's like, you deserve to have like your own. And I was like, I think I do. Like, it was like those moments where she just was like, okay, well now I'm going to let you figure what that looks like. And then I did. And then this was all created. And then I decided to create a podcast. And now I'm like in the process of writing a book and like creating a ton of different things. And so it's incredible when you just like surround yourself with people who like love you and you invest in yourself. You just like open up this like major doorway to like a ton of things that are coming to you. Like all these divine downloads. I love calling them that because one day I'll be sitting on my freaking couch and it's like, hey, you should write a book. Hey, here's the name of the book. I'm like, oh my God, grab my pen. And I'm like writing a million things down. But like, the whole message between that little rant there was just, I want people to believe in themselves and to like love the shit out of themselves and know what their values are. Because like you said, people they fall off of like, we're creatures of comfort. So a lot of the times we do things just to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to feel loved. And that is not always serving your highest good.
Absolutely.
At all.
Yeah. I think like also talking about being empowered or disempowered, when you were talking about your reaction of other people telling you that you're intimidating, I think that is a mirror. When someone says someone is intimidating, it is a reflection of their disempowered masculine energy.
Yes.
And when you end up raising, your standards and you end up kind of letting those people go, those kind of similar interactions where someone might have said you're intimidating, they will then say, I respect you, you inspire me. Yeah. It goes from intimidation, like you alchemize that intimidation, that disempowered, reaction into intimidation. I don't really get intimidated by people unless there's a part of me that feels threatened. Yes. And threatened is not in reflection of abundance, right? Or love. So when I heal those parts within me, I then see that same person I might have been intimidated by, and then I say, I respect you. It's a totally different thing. And I also tell this to my clients when they say like, Aislinn, I have to have a really hard conversation today. I have to tell this person no, or I have to lay some boundaries down. And I'm like, okay, girlfriend. So when you do this, you realize that this person will first feel offended, but then they'll go through a little limbo phase and they'll come around and they will respect you more.
Yes, 100%. There's so much power in saying no, but having the conversation surrounding no. And like, the masculine and the feminine energies, there's a whole play because like even males, females, they all have them. And I used to literally sit in like this masculine heavy, like hustle, frustration, anger, like, and constant anxiety type mode until I was like, hey, I do have a feminine side. Like, why am I not allowing this to be like easy? Why am I overcomplicating the crap out of everything? Like, there's a need for creation. There's a need for hustle. There's a need for like flow. There's a need for like all these different things. And sometimes I think we just get so wrapped in like having to be a certain way. Like And even there's people who teach that hustle, hustle, hustle until you like see success is the only way that you'll see success. And that is not it at all. Because even like so many people I'm spending time with, that's not what it means to them. They're like, no, this is how I'm moving my day around. This is how I'm operating. Like, I'm not doing everything in my business 24/7 because that doesn't make me feel good. Like, and so people are realizing that you don't have to be like hustle, hustle, hustle mode for 24 hours a day to see success at all. Like,
Not at all.
oy.
If you're hustling and you're not aligned, you will hustle yourself into the ground. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you have to align and then work forward. Like, it's align and then expand. I was teaching a yoga class a couple days ago, and the whole theme was align and then expand. Don't try to expand and then align. You know, don't try to like force yourself into a shape or force yourself, like, especially in an entrepreneur world, don't try to force yourself to a certain goal or expectation standard if you're unaligned or misaligned in the first place, because that is going to be attracting vibrationally a lot of wacky energy. People who say no to your offers, people who want refunds from you, people who don't respect your boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, all of these weird vibrational misalignment things that are a result of you not being aligned, but you trying to push forward first.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like, I want to also just kind of a broad sweeping statement is there is no right and there is no wrong. Hustle might work for someone, right? Hustle might work for someone, but if you want to be an efficient entrepreneur with your energy, you have to acknowledge the moments of surrender, the moments of chilling out, the moments of realigning, doing the personal inner soul work that is required to then move forward. It's not like a consistent linear trajectory. It's like, we're women, we're cyclical, we're all over the place sometimes, and that's actually a superpower.
Oh, yeah.
And the more you listen to that, the more you'll be like setting yourself up for success.
Well, love that. And also because like I want to talk about like our next level version of ourselves, like before we get off this call, but like what is something that you teach your clients or that you wish like all women would know about attracting this like next level abundant version of themselves? Like this like beginning step.
Okay. So the beginning step, there's different places to start, but I think the beginning step would be to get really clear on what you want, like to create a really safe and sacred space, physically, but emotionally and spiritually, where you close the door, you lock the door if you need to, you go like, I don't know, go on a little mini vacation so that you feel separated from everybody who has a previous opinion or expectation or judgment of you.
Yep.
Get in your own space and see if you can detach yourself from what other people think of you and just write down a list of crazy huge desires that you maybe wouldn't tell someone else yet. But you might, because you've probably heard, oh, you're unrealistic, or that's too big of a dream, or, you know, come back to earth. You've probably heard those things before, right? All the listeners are like, oh my God, I've heard this before and it sucks. No one wants to be limited. You know, you're like, I'm here for big things. But over time, we dull that vibrancy. We dull the desires or the expansiveness of the desires because we don't want to hear you can't or no or that's bad. So the first step to acknowledging or, you know, moving towards next level self, quotation marks, is to create a safe space for you to get really intimate with what you want and get really crazy big. Write down the craziest things, the biggest income goal that you could think of, go higher. Yeah. Like the biggest, most amazing, you know, accomplishment. Like maybe you speaking on a stage in front of 1,000 people. Maybe that's your thought. What if it was 10,000 people? Like what if you took it one more step and felt like you could start to normalize that was something that you could accomplish someday, you know? Because if you're doing this in a place that doesn't feel safe and you're telling your boyfriend or husband or, you know, girlfriend or whoever, and they respond with like, oh yeah, good, great, cool, sure, you're not going to feel empowered. And it's not up to you or them to empower you, right? It's like the second you disconnect from other people's expectations of who your next level self is, you give yourself permission to then explore that intimately for yourself. And that's the first place, because I really do believe that the vision is the first place. If you can't envision it, you're not going to attract it, you know? So give yourself permission to really dream big and write it down so that you look at that piece of paper and you're like, oh my God, that's what I really want. Oh my God. And then the liberation starts to happen. And then you get excited. And the more excitement and gratitude and enthusiasm you have behind those visions and desires, the more you'll energize them, right?
Oh yeah. And I think that I was actually reading in the, have you ever read the Desire Map?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh gosh, it's so good. It's so good.
I'll have to check it out.
It is, so they talk about like how desires are feelings. And so like at the end of the day, like when we're writing down like the desires that we want in life, we also are chasing that feeling. So if that feeling looks like happiness and joy or like excitement and whatever that is, or gratitude or appraisal, like whatever that is, know what that feeling is that you're looking for too, because like that's important when you're writing out like your desires. I love that you talk about like creating this like sacred space for you, and it's all about you, because you're right, everybody else's opinions of what we do. I always say this quote, other people's opinions of you is none of your business. And I think like creating your own space is just it just really amplifies that and allows you to just like be super real with yourself without anybody else's expectations. Because I firmly believe that if somebody doesn't believe in what I'm doing, that's okay. But like, I'm going to still push forward and I'm going to still push through my own fears, because one day, like, I'm going to achieve all my goals. I'm going to achieve like my next level version. And that other person isn't the one who's doing that. They're not inside me. Their heart, like my heart is beating inside of my body. So how can I expect somebody else to like hop into my body and pretend to like figure it all out? Exactly. I don't think that's fair. But
not.
I just realized too, like I wanted to talk to you about business and pleasure. So we're totally going to do that. Just kidding, guys. We're not going to yet.
Whatever's coming up is coming up, and this is fun.
I'm like, this is my day. I'm just allowing it to flow. Like I have these questions up and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not even looking at my book.
Well, that's kind of like, we could totally transition this, because when I was talking about, you know, writing down your desires and then you were talking about feeling them, the next step is to do something small every day that brings you closer into alignment with those particular feelings behind that desire. So for example, in my orgasmic manifestation program, I bring people through this like ritual process of giving themselves that sacred space, but then choosing to go out of maybe their normal routine, maybe go to some beautiful special candle shop that's really local and, you know, cozy, and you have a very pleasurable, sensual experience in choosing the candle that represents your next level self, you know, and like really investing in that one candle and being like, yes, I'm going to bring this home with me, and I'm going to light this candle every time I take a bath, or every time I make love, or every time I journal, so that it represents a ritual experience of you feeling in alignment with that desire, along with like your next level self. It's a small thing, you know, but it actually really contributes to your growth over time.
Well, it does. And as females, I think it's important for us to like understand we are very sensual beings. And so you don't see a man standing in like a candle shop smelling a bunch of maybe you do, but like my husband doesn't. And so if I come home and I bring it home, he's like, oh, that does smell nice. But like I don't catch him just sitting there smelling all these things and like holding them a specific way, or like holding his cup of coffee in the morning and smelling how good it like smells, and then tasting it and like loving it. Like we are sensual freaking beings. And like it's the same thing of like if I'm in a cozy sweater, like I love the way it makes me feel. Like I'm wearing a super cozy one right now, and it's warm and it's flowy and it's long. My husband would be like, it's a fucking sweater.
Yeah.
They're very logical. And so like when you're going after those things, like knowing that feeling that you're chasing is so important. But like the simplicity of going out and getting a candle, like I love that. It was so funny. The other day I was in a store, and all of a sudden I was with my mom, and I was like, Mom, it smells like my mother-in-law. And she's like, this sounds really funny. And she's like, what? And I'm like, just smell that. Like there's obviously a candle that like smells like her perfume. Legit, I ended up buying this candle because I could not stop laughing, because literally it smells like her. Like what she smells like. So like my daughter, like every time she comes in and she wears this like one perfume, and it smells amazing, might I add. And so she came to the house one day, my mother-in-law, I'm like, here, smell this. It smells like you. She's like, oh my God, it does. I'm like, I know. Now I have this candle and it smells like you. Like,
She picks it up. She's like, ew, this smells.
but like,
Yeah, it smells like you.
but it's true. Like like everything that we touch and see and smell, and like we're very sensual. And so I think it's important, like in regards to like business and pleasure, like if you're like, I was talking to Olivia Slane about this before, but like business and pleasure and like in the bedroom and like how those two correlate. And I really feel like they do, even as a woman, because of this like sensual beings that we are. And like going from like your head to your heart is something that she talks about, and like freaking love it, because it made like massive changes for myself and my husband in the bedroom, but also in my business. Like being aware of like what we want. So many people are so quiet about like their sex life or their pleasure.
Yeah.
I think like my husband and I, we tell each other what we like and what we don't like. And if we don't like it, we don't do it. I think that's so important. Like we've even said like, this is not in any way like trying to offend you, but like we want to have this epic freaking sex life, and like we want to make like love to each other and like know that we're having some good sex. And so it's like to be able to communicate with you about it is so important. And so now I'll be like, no, I don't like that. And he's like, oh, okay. But I'm like, oh, no, like that. So,
communication. Yeah, that's so important.
It is. And even just like so many people are like worried about talking about like business and pleasure and how that comes together. Like I found myself more connected with my husband, more relaxed with my husband, more like in tune with him, more in love with him. And just simply through communicating and like allowing myself to receive pleasure, which also allows me to receive pleasure in my business. And like pleasure isn't this like dirty word. It doesn't have to be this like, so many people are like, pleasure in business? What the hell are you talking about? I'm like, no. I'm talking about the joyful, the excitement, the like, hell yes, all those kinds of emotions. That's pleasure. That's like making yourself feel good, which is the same as having like making love to your husband is also making you feel good in a different state. Like two different ideas of pleasure.
Totally. Yeah, and like I'll take it even one step further energetically. When you open yourself up to pleasure in your body, you also are activating your sacral chakra, which is your space, the zone of creative energy. And when you activate that, that's not just present in the bedroom. Like you walk out of the bedroom, you go to the grocery store, you show up on live, you create content from that place of being ignited and activated. And it's because it's open. Like it's very hard to create content if you're feeling turned off, right? Like you can plow through it, you can get it done, you can do it from a place of logic, but when you get into your heart, you get into your womb, you get into your pleasure space, and you create from that, then it's an entirely different ballgame. Like it's an entirely different level of what actually is being able to kind of come through you or channel through you. And I found that when I commit and choose my pleasure, and when I commit and choose to activating my womb and my heart, I show up in business as like my light shines brighter. Yeah. My creative energy is turned on. Like I'm a big fan of turning on your life, turning on your soul, turning you on to your work, so that it's not like I have to do this, it's I get to do this. And in the bedroom, like with your partner, that's a place for you to like have a little simulation of getting activated and getting turned on and being able to communicate in the safe place in a ritual kind of way. This works, this doesn't work. I like this, I don't like this. Being empowered in your voice, actually for females, the sacral chakra is really connected to your throat. So when you open the womb, your voice is also impacted. And they're very intimately intertwined. So you can tell, like when a woman walks into a room, she's got a presence, she has a voice, she just like oozes this orgasmic, like turned on energy, right? And that is like magnetic. That, for an empowered woman, it's magnetic. For a woman who's not in that space of empowerment yet, it might be a trigger, right? But then it's also an opportunity for the people who are aware to be like, okay, she has something that I want, and it doesn't mean I don't have it myself, but I get to turn it on within myself. So that's a really cool process to go through. When you're starting in the bedroom, you get turned on, you start to speak your truth, and then it transmutes and shows up in your business in a big freaking way.
Hell yes.
Hell yes.
And even before, and I'm not just saying that like my sex life with my husband or my business, like my pleasure in my business was just like perfect, because it hasn't been. There's been like these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs. And like it took a point where, because I know so many people are struggling with their sex life, but they're also struggling with not like being really honest and like using their voice and communicating. And so like I highly encourage it because it scared the crap out of me, but I knew I was always turning away from my husband. I didn't know why. I was just very closed off. And so I remember just being like, you know what? Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know how I allowed myself to like mask this and like take it out on him, which was making him feel like I was pulling away his masculinity. Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, am I making you feel like I don't love you, that I don't want to be in the space with you, and that you don't want to try? And he was like, yeah, like every time you turn away, it hurts and it makes me feel like we're not connected in that way. And so I said, I'm like, okay, we need to like talk with one another and communicate about how we're feeling, because like he's like, well, why do you feel this way? Like, why all of a sudden do you feel closed off? And like after I had my daughter, like there's a lot of stuff like people need to get like very clear with, because I ended up learning that when I had my daughter and I lost like 2 liters of blood, and then it was really traumatic, and like there was a lot of womb trauma that I didn't allow myself to deal with until I got like a teaching on it, until somebody like really dove into that with me. And then a lot of emotions came up about it. And I realized that like, I didn't allow my body to heal. I didn't allow myself to like heal and to move through that and to actually process what had happened to myself and my body. And also the fact that I created life. Like there is so much that comes to play with it. And then once I was honest with my husband, we're like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling. This was like really traumatic for me. And once I explained it, he understood, and he was like gentle, and he was kind, and he was loving, and he was nurturing, because men, they want to see you feel happy and excited and feel loved. They're not searching. Like if they know what makes you feel good, they want to do it. Like, because they're searching for that feeling, because they know that you are like, we are like emotional feelers, I want to say. And they're like the logicals. So they're like, oh, that makes her feel good. That's a yes. Oh, that doesn't make her feel good. That's a no. Like, so knowing like yourself and being honest with where you are, like now, like it took work to get to that point with my husband where like our sex life got much better. We even got to the point where we wrote like a contract, and it was really funny. It was fun. And we were like, we're going to have sex like for every day for 30 days and it's going to be fun. And like we made it a joke. We put like a ton of things on there. And we put it on our mirror, and we held ourselves accountable to it. Even on the days where we're just like, I was so tired. It was like, no, we promised this to each other. Like, this is something we're going to move through. This is something that we're going to do. And it like totally helped our sex life.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 times. Because it didn't allow us to like stay in this like closed off state. It always put us to be like open. Even if we're like, okay, let's just do it. We still had to be like in that moment together. And so I just think if anybody's going to take some information away from this, like I love what you said about like your throat and how like everything connects itself, and being empowered in your voice, because every woman can have that back, and every woman can heal from things. And like, I just want everybody to have a really passionate life.
Yes, passion. Like, we're here to live this life fully, you know? Yeah. And when you subdue a part of your life, like I've had very similar experiences where I've turned myself off and I've dimmed my light and I haven't been present in my relationship. I think every woman experiences that. Every person, every human being, you know, all gender, you know, related, like we're humans, we all experience that. But for women especially, it's a very wounded feminine mechanism to shut down, close off. And I know my like initial symptom when I feel threatened, especially in my relationship, is to shut down my verbal communication. And I think a lot of women also feel that way, because when we speak our truth, we are ostracized. When we speak our truth, we are harmed, or we are judged, or we are shamed. So the first initial, like your relationship is the biggest example of feminine masculine energies, right? When the feminine is disempowered, she shuts down, her verbal communication also turns off. The man gets annoyed, and the man gets, you know, or the masculine figure, whether it's female or male, ends up also feeling disappointed, and they can't provide for the woman. They can't provide for the feminine energy to then bloom and blossom. When the feminine energy is shut down, the masculine energy is going to constantly seek where else in his life he can then activate a feminine energy in some other kind of form, whether that's music or art or another woman. Like, it's all an interplay. It's not ever, it's a two to tango situation.
Yeah.
So I think for a woman to empower herself sexually or in the bedroom or, in her own body, even if this like triggers some people who are listening to this podcast, it doesn't mean you have to go be sexual. It doesn't mean you have to go like make love. It means you have to reconnect to your own body in a way that feels safe to you. So start out with dancing, start out with like talking to yourself in the mirror, start out with a yoga class, like start out with a yin yoga class that you get really deep into your hips. Those kinds of feelings that start to bring consciousness, prana, chi into those places that were originally dark or unconscious, and then start to see what shifts from there. It's just a step-by-step process,
Oh yeah. Everything's a process. There's no like, and then I think we want to see like the results now and like see everything now. We're like, just trust and know that like if you genuinely and truly want things to like increase and get better and you really like envision this for yourself, then it will. Like just keep trusting and moving through it. And so this conversation has been really good. I can't wait to like listen back to these. I always love listening back to like my podcast interviews and like knowing, like just listening to what we talk about, because even listening to the things that I say, sometimes I blow my own damn mind.
I love that. That's awesome. I do the same thing. I'm like, wow, that was cool.
Wow, you said that. Hey. So for everybody that's listening, because I'm so grateful that you came and shared this space with me. Where can they find you through social media? It's going to be in the bio as well, you guys, but just for everybody to know from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so thankful for this. I had a blast. I feel like we could keep talking for hours.
Oh gosh, yes.
I always love podcasts because we're like, oh my God, it's been this long already. Great. Well, to continue the conversation, if anyone wants to, my handle on Instagram is @abundancewitch, one word. And you can find me on Facebook at Aislinn Walton. If you don't know how to spell my name, go check it out in the comments.
It'll be in the comments.
And aislinnwalton.com. Those are the 3 spots that you can find me. I show up a lot on Facebook these days, so it's kind of like my favorite way to really connect with people.
Love it. So thank you again so much, you guys. This is Aislinn Walton, and we had such a great conversation today. And I will see you guys all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.